on, everybody? This is Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. I have a special guest today, the host of the C.F.L Podcast, one of the hottest podcasts is covering HBCU football. That is Mr. Cobi Orr. Cobi, how's it going, man?
Yes, sir. It's going good, man. Thank you so much for having me on, too. I really appreciate it.
Hey, it's no problem, man. No problem. It's all about networking and expanding. And I love the work that you do. I want to just say that on camera so everybody can know. The C.F.L podcast, like I said, Cobi comes with the commitment series from Jackson to Mississippi Valley to Grambling and everybody in between when they're shooting out offers, when they're getting commit. So be sure to check out the C.F.L podcast. And speaking of recruiting, Cobi, the recruiting in the SWAC, the recruiting in HBCU football has just gone crazy since the arrival of Coach Prime at Jackson, Mississippi. Just from your perspective, being a fan, a lover of the game, what's the impact that Coach Prime has had on Jackson State? Not just Jackson State, but for HBCU football everywhere.
Well, see, the thing is, if I have to be brutally honest, right, I think when Coach Prime came, other schools realize either we have to step up or we will be left behind. Like, you don't want him to have a whole dynasty where he's just out recruiting y'all every single year, getting the number one FCS class every single year, and y'all are still recruiting at the same level. And now, like, it's just domination. So they know now they know, like, we have to up our game. So that's the main thing that Coach Prime has brought, right? Like, he's doing a lot of positives, but he's also forcing programs who are content with being the way that they were to step up. You can't be that anymore.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Just coming in and changing the mind frame, I think, of HBCU athletic programs is what Coach Prime did. He put the pressure, like you said, he put the pressure on those different schools. And now we go out and we see Grambling hire a guy with NFL head coaching experience in a Hugh Jackson. How big is that Hugh Jackson hire down in Grambling, do you think?
See, I think it's huge, right? And I think it'll be a really good thing for Grambling. The first school that I ever loved or ever knew about, especially the football team, was Grambling, right? When I was like a kid in 2005. So I was very happy to see it. A lot of people are skeptical of it because they look at his record with the Cleveland Browns. But, we got to realize, not comparing him to Nick Saban, but Nick Saban was horrible as an NFL coach as well. But the college game is just perfect for him. I think Hugh Jackson with his NFL staff, right? I think they'll come in. Most definitely, he'll get things going with recruiting. He started already. I think he'll bring a lot of benefits recruiting wise, and I think this could potentially be a really good fit for him at college level.
Yeah, I like Hugh a lot. I think Hugh is a good mentor. I think Hugh is someone with NFL experience, both as a head coach and as a coordinator. And I think Hugh's last year at Tennessee State with head coach Eddie George really kind of showed him how the landscape of HBCU football is, how the landscape of college football is. And I think all of that is beneficial. And he'll bring his experience, his knowledge, and most importantly, I think his resources to Grambling State. And how big is having those resources when it comes to things like recruiting and when it comes to going out and getting these players and showing that we can upgrade the facilities, we can upgrade the program? How big is that, Cobi?
See, it's big because these HBCUs haven't really had that in a while. Like, it's not. Sometimes it's not that these HBCUs don't want to go after the big recruits. It's that they have nothing to compete with. Like, you've seen the $1 million facilities at Oregon, right? Like, I'm an Oregon fan. Phil Knight, the CEO of Oregon, gives them everything. It's hard to compete with that when you basically have like a little small weight room. It's hard to compete. So now that they're able to level the playing field a little bit more because he has these connections, right? Because I think that's the common misconception, right? You don't have to have an Alabama level facility. Yours just needs to be good enough, right, to get these guys in. Like, they need to see something promising. So, Hugh Jackson doesn't have to do things. He doesn't have to get the top notch, everything like, the Power Fives have. But I think his connections that he has is going to benefit Grambling in a tremendous way because now these kids have incentives when they come to Grambling on visits to say, you know what, I like it here. This is cool here. I can end up coming here. I don't have to have the whirlpool at Alabama, Clemson, or whatever it is,
Once again, I'm talking to Cobi Orr of the C.F.L Podcast. The C.F.L Podcast. Be sure to go over there and check out the C.F.L Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Now, Cobi, you follow recruiting really well, especially for the HBCU level. What have you seen already? What's the impact that not only Deion Sanders had on the recruiting trail, but that you've already seen in only 2 or 3 days on the job from Hugh Jackson? What are some of the things that you're seeing so far?
So as far as the impact goes, right, I think because a lot of recruits seen Coach Prime's first class and they seen how happy they are at Jackson State. A lot of kids were just waiting on the fence, right, to see how that's going to go. So now that a year has passed and Coach Prime has probably only lost 2 guys from that recruiting class, 2 freshmen, but everybody else is saying on Twitter, this is the best decision I ever made. I love my HBCU. I love the environment here. Now more kids are starting to buy in. With South Carolina State, they just got a linebacker from North Carolina, I believe, where 5-star Travis Shaw came from. Now, when he was asked, why did you choose a HBCU? He said, I want to be a part of change. And he mentioned, right, seeing the Coach Primes and, what they were able to do at Jackson State. So I think just that initial class, seeing how much fun they had together, seeing how much upgrades they were able to get with uniforms and facilities and everything like that. Yeah. They're seeing a change happen, right? And now they want to be a part of it. And I like it. Like, I love it, as a matter of fact.
Man, it's so awesome because I think a lot of recruits, I mean, these recruits are probably, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 26. And so I know a lot of recruits are younger than me. And I can say from my big old age that I didn't even know the history of Grambling all the way like I should have. I didn't know the history of a Jackson State like I should have. I didn't know the history of just HBCU football players and the success that they had at the next level, at the professional level, and the success that obviously I knew that HBCU graduates had a lot of success in the professional world outside of sports, but even in the sporting world, I mean, Jackson State has 4 Hall of Famers. That's more than places like Clemson and other Power 5 major programs. Just how big is that for the recruits that come into, whether it's Jackson State or Grambling, who has their fair share of Hall of Famers, and Doug Williams, the first Black quarterback to win a Super Bowl? How big is that to actually get to, once you get on campus for these visits and get to know some of that history? How big do you think that is for those recruits?
See, it's very big. It's very big, right? And I think that they need to. A slight criticism I would have for HBCUs is that they need to do a better job, right, in maintaining, just keeping these things out there. Like, I remember, like, when I was younger, right, the only reason why I knew about Grambling State was because I was watching BET, and there was this series called Season of the Tiger. Like, it was a docu-series following Bruce Eugene and that 2005 Grambling State team, which was amazing, right? And because I was able to see the success every week on TV, right? Like, I was able to learn about the Doug Williams and everything like that. That's what kept Grambling in my mind, right? So I feel like if, HBCUs could be a little more consistent as far as, sharing the success that you have out there and putting your history out there, I think it'll probably make HBCUs go up even more, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's been some sort of lack of marketing. I mean, the fact that we didn't know that all these, well, let me not say we. I'm gonna just center this around me, and I'm a pretty big football fan, but to not know some of these big time names, these big time players went to historically Black colleges and universities is a shame on me, and can be a shame on some of the marketing. Now, Cobi, we have the biggest HBCU football game coming up in this next week. Jackson State travels down to Atlanta to take on the winners of the MEAC, South Carolina State. What are your thoughts on the game? And at the end, we'll get a prediction from you. But what are your thoughts on those 2 matchups? Jackson State coming in as the overwhelming favorite against South Carolina State.
So it's no surprise why Jackson State is the favorite, right?
None at all.
This is such an odd matchup in a way, even though South Carolina State has dogs. And I think people, because they don't really watch the MEAC like that, because North Carolina A&T, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman left the MEAC, they just kind of left the MEAC for dead, and they don't really know what's going on. They don't really know South Carolina has the team to give Jackson State a game, right? And it all depends on their game plan. With how the ending of this game was going to come out. So if I'm South Carolina State and I have a Cobi Durant, right? Who, he's going to be drafted, right? But if he was 6'1", 6'2", he's a second round pick at least, second or third round pick at least, because I have Zaire Kelly, because I have B.J. Davis on that defense, and nobody really knows about them, right? I'm not as nervous as other people expect that I should be. I'm actually using this as fuel. I'm using this underdog mentality as fuel. If I'm South Carolina State's defensive coordinator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop 8 the same way PV did, right? And I'm going to let Shedeur Sanders try to beat me that way. I want you to test Cobi Durant. I want you to test Zaire Kelly, right? You can try to run the ball, but I do have BJ Davis right there. We are very good against the run, so take your shot. Like if they don't fall victim to the outside noise, if South Carolina State does not fall victim to the outside noise, and I think they'll be fine. It's more on the offense for South Carolina State and how Corey Fields is going to be able to handle this game that I think determines the outcome for South Carolina State.
Yeah, I think also having all this time to prepare. Now, I don't know if it'll be rust or if it'll be a great game plan because, South Carolina State hasn't played football in like 3 weeks, a month?
Yeah.
Something. It's like a month. So they haven't played football in a very long time, and you kind of knew who were you going to play. If you had to, obviously you can't start the game plan too early, but you could kind of guess that Jackson State was going to handle business against Prairie View. Prairie View, no offense to Puma Pass, I'm a Louisville guy, and I know what Puma Pass brings to the table when he doesn't. And I knew that Jackson State defense was going to have a field day with Puma Pass. I probably didn't know he'd had 4 turnovers. That was a bit, but I knew they'd get a couple from him, and they were able to capitalize on those. So I say all that to say that South Carolina State's had a lot of time to prepare, and Jackson State offense hadn't been that great all year. Let's be honest. They had essentially one good game for real.
And you know what? That's the thing that people don't want to talk about. Even with the JSU fan base, they will swear every week that it's going to be a blowout. You have not blown out anybody since Alabama A&M. You have not done it. You have not looked as dominant as you did since that week. Like, you've had ups and downs. As great as a receiver as Malachi Wyman is, he catches with his body and he drops a lot of passes.
Tell it, Cobi. Tell it, man. Like, tell it. Like, it's always the facts. All of those are facts.
He'll come up for you when you need it, and I think that's who Jackson State is as a team, right? When, how like my grandma used to say in church, God may not come when you need him, but he always on time.
Always preach.
They may not come when you need them throughout the game, but they'll always show up on time, as you see with the Southern game and everything like that. So Jackson State really does not have a reason to be as confident as they are in dominating South Carolina State, right? And when they are, that shows me that they have not watched South Carolina State throughout the season. Nobody in this fan base has, right? Because with they have NFL guys the same way you guys do. It's not going to be a domination, and I don't want them to go into this game thinking that and they get embarrassed on national television.
Yeah, and think about it. Throughout the history of the Celebration Bowl, the MEAC is dominated. That's not by accident. The MEAC has overwhelmingly dominated the SWAC since the inception of the Celebration Bowl. So I think the SWAC, man. Yeah, go for it.
I'll say this: North Carolina A&T was dominating the MEAC before they left. Right? We forget that before the COVID year in 2019, South Carolina State tied them for MEAC champions, but because North Carolina A&T won the tiebreaker, they were able to go to the Celebration Bowl. South Carolina State has been on the up and up for a while now. They didn't just come out of nowhere, right? They're not as bad as people think they are. They are right there. Like, they are good enough to compete with SWAC teams.
Yeah, and they have the NFL's best linebacker as an alum, Darius Leonard. It comes straight out of South Carolina State. So now South Carolina State, they have a very well-respected program. And like you said, honestly, Prairie View's a few missed throws away from that being a totally different ball game. I don't want to harp on Puma Pass and act like I'm bagging on them, but we got to act like there were guys that were open. First of all, there were guys that were making plays even when he made bad throws, and then there were guys that were just flat out open that he just missed. And I think that is something that South Carolina State can attack, don't you?
For the past few weeks, there have been I have watched quarterbacks consistently attack CJ Nunnally in that slot and him
Yes.
get beat every time, but the quarterback just overthrows the ball. Like, they aren't as solid as they think they are. All it takes is for one capable quarterback to be able to deliver the pass, and it's a whole different ball game we're talking about. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think on if we're talking about Jackson State's football team, they have a elite level quarterback. He makes freshman mistakes, but he is elite. He's elite. That offensive line is shaky, though. That offensive line is very, very much shaky. They have an elite receiving core. I don't think they have like an essential. I think Malachi Whiteman can eventually become an elite receiver, but he's not there yet. He's not as consistent. Keith Corbin's really consistent. He's a good receiver. So they have an elite core with Corbin, Newman, Weidman, Rucker. I think Rucker can be really special too, by the way. I think he's the most talented, but that's just me. And then the running backs are solid. They're solid, but they're not special. But because the offensive line is very shaky, that the running game isn't as good as probably it should be. I think the running back game could be better, but the trenches isn't where it needs to be. On defense, they have an elite defensive line. I think the defensive line led by James Houston is elite, just period.
Yeah.
Linebacking core, I think it's elite too. I think Keontae Hampton and Aubrey Miller are really good. But the secondary is what can be attacked. We love the big hits from Shiloh and, the trash talking from Nugget. But like you said, that secondary can be exploited at times. And I think that's a place where South Carolina State can really have some success. For those, Cobi, you seem to have watched a lot of South Carolina State more than most people. What do you expect them to bring? They've had all this time to prepare. They've seen all the tape. They've heard all the noise. What do you expect? You said what to look for, but what do you expect from that South Carolina State football team when they hit the field Saturday in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia?
I don't care if it's Nugget or Al Young. If it's one-on-one coverage with Shaquan Davis, I'm taking it. And I'm taking it every time. I'm taking it every time. That's your star player. That's our star player. I am willing to live and die by Shaquan Davis. I am, right? I know what Wolverine can do. I know I got him on the other side as well. But I'm going to get Shaquan involved because, honestly, I need to see that you can stop him. I'm not just going to be scared because you're the number one DB in JUCO and now you're at Jackson State. So that's that. Number two, Kendrell Flowers, right? He was on pace for 1,000 yards this season. We know how good South Carolina State's front seven is, but I think you still have to find a way to establish the run. And, if it isn't working at all, then okay, you go away from it and you change it up, right? Also, with Corey Fields, I genuinely think the success of the team will depend on him. Can he give me the Corey Fields from week one at Alabama A&M that put up 41 points? Can I get the Corey Fields from New Mexico State that almost led to an upset, right? It probably would have been had Shaquan been healthy that game. Or because if I'm getting a Shaquan who barely made it past Delaware State, it's going to be a long day, right? So because as much as I'm a fan of him, he's a great athlete. As far as a quarterback goes, he's not consistent with making throws. So what I'm going to do, knowing that pass rush for JSU is so relentless as it is, I'm keeping Corey on the move, right? Like play action. I'm doing a lot of misdirections. I'm sending somebody at the backfield. Like I'm getting the ball out quick, right? And I'm attacking you like that. I'm taking what the defense gives me. I'm not giving them time, especially James Houston, to kill our momentum every single drive. So I got to get the move.
Yeah, man. You're right about that. Like you said, the thing is, you don't have to go out there and be Peyton Manning or Tom Brady to beat Jackson State, but you got to make timely throws. Like you got to make throws count, and your defense got to shore up. They got to be solid because Jackson State's offense has shown in the past that it can be very, very much stagnant. They make plays when it matters, and that's why they're so special. Now, South Carolina State has got to be the team to be able to make plays when it matters the most. Now, Cobi, I'm going to get you out on this, man. I need a prediction, and I need to know who you're going with and why you're going with them, and I'll let you leave after that. But once again, this is Cobi Orr from the C.F.L Podcast. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. So, Cobi, we got the Celebration Bowl. Who is winning it and why? Who you got and why? Let's go.
You put me on the spot here, man. you know how hard this is for me, right? Because the Jackson State community, they support my channel more than any other. HBCU. With that being said, I'm from Carolina. I can't brag on the whole team like that. You know, I predicted this matchup, so I knew this was gonna have to come eventually. I don't know, man. I don't want to do it. Somebody gonna get on me.
Hey, it's just true, man. But this is the business that we're in. Hey, the thing is, you don't gotta be right. You just gotta put a prediction. I'm not asking for a score. I'm just asking who's gonna win and why they're going to take home the celebration trophy. Is gonna be Jackson State taking home their first ever Celebration Bowl trophy, or is it gonna be the boys down there in South Carolina in your home state? Are they gonna be taking home a Celebration Bowl trophy down in Atlanta on Saturday?
All right, so if I had to pick somebody,
what you do?
I give it to JSU. I'm going JSU. I'm going JSU. At the end of the day, I think the defense has just too much. Right, James Houston, Coinus Miller, Keontae Aubrey, Cam. You know how great Cam is. Niles Gaddy. It's just too much to overcome for South Carolina State. But I don't think it will be a blowout by any means. I think South Carolina State will have a lot of people leaving that stadium with newfound respect for them as well, and probably apologizing for a lot of the blowout comments that they had about them. So I think South Carolina State will put up a great fight, but I give it to JSU.
JSU, you heard it here first from Mr. C.F.L Podcast himself. He's going with the JSU Tigers over South Carolina State. Once again, this is Jeff Lightsy Jr. with the Black Boss Channel with our special guest, Mr. Cobi Orr from the C.F.L Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in tonight, and we will see you next time. Peace.